Okay, so it's quiet out there. It's late.
It is.
Maybe it's 3 a.m. where you are. Maybe you've got a cup of coffee that's long gone cold, or maybe you just can't sleep.
Because of the source material.
Yeah, because of this. This unique, specific anxiety that this stuff unleashes.
It really does. It forces a brutal confrontation with the most fundamental assumption we make every single day, the moment we wake up.
Which is what?
That the world, the concrete reality around us, and especially the people in it, that they're objectively, permanently, and universally real.
Right. You just assume it. You don't even think about it.
You don't. And so our mission tonight, it isn't just to summarize the data you provided, it's to follow this really uncomfortable escalating line of reasoning.
Escalating is the right word.
It connects this classical philosophical doubt that has plagued thinkers for millennia with what we currently understand about reality at its smallest quantum level.
And it all leads to, well, where does it lead?
It all leads to one intensely philosophical, profoundly lonely, and, well, ultimately a paranoid conclusion.
I have to admit, when I first saw the title of the dossier, something about Solipsism and the observer effect, I was ready to dismiss it.
A lot of people are.
I thought it sounded like, intellectual navel-gazing.
Yeah.
Like a purely academic exercise we could just knock out in 10 minutes.
Philosophy 101 stuff.
Exactly. I was the skeptic walking into this deep dive, completely confident that, I could explain why the wall is solid and why my friends have feelings. It sounds silly even saying it.
But it's not.
No. Because the way these sources framed it, the way they took that abstract academic question and just built the argument, not just conceptually, but with scientific suggestions, brick by terrifying brick, it genuinely started to unsettle me.
It gets under your skin.
It moved so quickly from being this dusty old theory to a real felt dread.
And that dread is precisely what the problem of other minds targets. It's the philosophical hammer blow that shatters that comfortable illusion of shared certainty.
Yeah, but we have to get straight to the point, right? We have to pose the core, chilling question that the sources force us to ask about everyone around us, about the environment we're in, and yeah, even about this conversation we're having right now, late into the night.
Let's do it.
The person listening to this right now,
Yeah.
how do they know we are real? How do you know that the voice you're hearing, the insights we're sharing, how do you know they're coming from an actual, verifiable conscious mind?
You can't.
How do you prove that we are anything more than a perfectly programmed response?
Yeah.
Designed for your own isolated consciousness?
And that is the perfect introduction, because that tension, that exact tension between your singular verifiable consciousness and the complete lack of verifiable proof for anything else, that is the foundation of this whole deep dive.
Right.
We are exploring the chasm between I think, therefore I am, and the much shakier idea they speak, therefore they must also be.
So we're going on a heavy journey tonight.
We are.
We're going to start in the deep isolation of philosophical doubt, where we question the minds of others.
Then we move to the science.
Then we're going to move into the terrifying implications of quantum mechanics, where we question the reality of our environment itself.
And finally,
we'll look at how this intense paranoia actually manifests psychologically in the real world. So, yeah, let's unpack this and pull on the thread until it breaks. Okay, so the sources make a truly powerful and profoundly isolating statement right out of the gate. And it's about the single certainty we all rely on. What is the one thing that is absolutely undeniable in your universe?
That's right. The core fact presented is, it's simple, but it's revolutionary in its consequence.
Oh, yes.
You are 100% certain that you are conscious.
Okay, I feel my thoughts. I know I'm here.
You can feel your own thoughts, your anxieties, your joy. You possess internal, subjective experience. Your own mental life is the only guaranteed first-person reality you possess. There is no doubt in your mind that the voice inside your head, your awareness, is genuine.
Right, and we spend our entire lives basing everything on that.
Yeah.
Our society, our relationships, our laws, it's all based on the assumption that everyone else is operating the same way.
We assume everyone has that same inner voice, that same spark.
It's a leap of faith.
Precisely. It's a necessary leap of faith. But the source material and the core of solipsism, it just flips that comfort on its head. It points out the glaring epistemological problem.
Problem B.
You have zero proof, zero verifiable, objective proof that anyone else is conscious in the same way you are.
And this is where we have to pause and define the one thing that separates you, the conscious observer, from a sophisticated machine.
Yeah.
That unique, non-observable element. Qualia.
Qualia. What a beautiful, haunting word. The sources stress this concept because it's the non-verifiable ghost in the machine.
So what is it exactly?
Qualia refers to the individual instances of subjective conscious experience. It's not just seeing the color red, it's the experience of seeing the color red. It's the feeling of pain, the taste of coffee, the sound of music. These are intrinsically personal. They're impossible to transmit or measure objectively.
So if I say, that apple is red, and a robot says, that apple is red, we can both agree on the wavelength of light, the science of it.
Correct.
But the robot doesn't have the feeling of redness. It doesn't have that internal qualia. And so if I can't verify the qualia of my friend, how do I know they aren't just a very, very smart robot?
You can't. You can observe their behavior, you can hear their speech, see their reactions, predict their movements based on learned patterns.
They behave like me, so I assume they are like me.
That's the argument from analogy, yes. But you cannot fundamentally see inside their heads to verify the presence of their qualia. Their conscious experience, their inner self, remains perpetually unverifiable by you. We use analogies, we use shared language, but we are all still trapped behind that invisible, singular membrane of our own skull.
Which brings us to the ultimate terrifying fear defined in the dossier, the philosophical zombie, the P-zombie.
And this is where the concept gets truly insidious, because it's not about their physical appearance, it's about their internal reality.
It's not a zombie from the movies.
Not at all. A philosophical zombie isn't a shambling corpse. It's a purely theoretical construct described in the sources as a biological machine acting like they have feelings, but inside, it is dark.
Inside it is dark. That description is haunting.
It is. It's an entity that is functionally identical to a human being, physically, behaviorally, but lacks any subjective internal qualia.
So, my closest friend, my partner, the person I share my life with, they could be utterly indistinguishable from a conscious being in every observable way.
They cry at a movie, they laugh at your joke, they argue nuanced political points.
But internally, there's no light on, no subjective experience, just sophisticated mimicry running on advanced biochemical programming.
They are performing consciousness flawlessly. They are a complex automaton. The sources use the term philosophical zombie precisely to capture that profound deception. It's not about their physical state. It's about the total, fundamental unknowability of their internal state of mind.
It's the ultimate limit of what we can know.
It is. This is not just a fringe philosophical game. It represents the deepest limit of human knowledge, the epistemological crisis of knowing other minds.
But let me pose a challenge here, because the skeptic in me is still fighting.
Please.
If P-zombies are so perfectly programmed, if they react to pain by flinching and react to joy by smiling,
Yeah.
why does it matter if they have qualia? Isn't that just semantics? I mean, if the functional outcome's identical, doesn't the philosophical distinction just fade away?
That's a crucial challenge, and the sources anticipate it by shifting the focus from the P-zombie's functionality to the observer's experience, to your experience.
Right.
If they lack qualia, then your entire relationship with them is based on a lie. Their comfort, their love, their shared experience, it's all being manufactured for your benefit. The reason it matters to you, the observer, is that it turns a supposed relationship into a solo performance. The other person is not sharing, they are reflecting.
And what I found so compelling and frankly anxiety-inducing is how this ancient philosophical worry has been modernized in the source material.
How so?
It connects the P-zombie idea directly to viewing others as NPCs, non-player characters.
That's a powerful contemporary analogy. It links philosophical isolation to the experience of a simulated or digitally isolated world.
And this feeling has just accelerated in the digital age, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When people feel disconnected, when online discourse seems automated or purely reactionary, it becomes easy to dismiss the consciousness behind the screen.
So if everyone else is an NPC, what does that mean?
It means they are not acting based on internal consciousness or self-will. They're acting based on pre-programmed scripts or reactions designed purely to advance your story, the main character's story.
It feels like a defense mechanism, doesn't it? If the world is overwhelming or if others seem irrational, it's easier to cope by just euphevic, concluding they aren't fully real.
That they're just running flawed code.
Yeah. And this idea is pervasive in online culture. The sources suggest that the technological analogy just gave a new voice to a very old, deeply buried solipsistic anxiety.
And if we look closely at the language in the sources, the NPC analogy strips others of complexity. NPCs exist only to deliver plot points, services, or dialogue trees relevant to the player.
They don't have their own lives when you're not around.
They lack the interiority that defines consciousness. And if you are the single genuine consciousness, then everyone you interact with falls into this category by default.
And this leads directly to the deepest kind of loneliness presented in the provided quotes. It's not the loneliness of physical isolation. We all feel that sometimes.
No, this is much more profound. It's a structural loneliness.
What's the quote? There was one that really stuck with me.
The scariest kind of loneliness isn't being by yourself. It's being with people and realizing they might not be real.
Yeah. Think about that for a second. That realization is the fundamental shift from just being temporarily alone to realizing you are fundamentally unique in a universe of sophisticated fakes.
You're surrounded by noise, by activity, by touch, by shared language.
But you are the single solitary point of genuine subjective experience. All the love you feel, all the shared laughter, the moment you're experiencing right now, it might only be happening on your side of the screen.
The other person is just running code, perfectly designed to give you, the protagonist, the illusion of interaction.
And this gulf can be triggered by the smallest things. A blank stare from someone, an overly predictable response, or just a moment of total disconnect in a conversation.
It can trigger that latent anxiety.
Absolutely. That's what started to genuinely creep me out. I kept thinking about this line after I read it. I look at people on the subway and I wonder, is there anyone home behind those eyes?
It's a haunting thought.
And that thought is already disturbing enough when you look at a complete stranger, the person on their phone, the weary commuter. But the real moment of fear is when you extrapolate it.
When you apply it to familiar faces.
Yeah. That's the critical failure point of the skeptic. I started looking at my own family, my closest colleagues, and wondering, when they laugh at a joke I tell, is that a genuine flicker of shared consciousness?
Or is it a preloaded, expected human reaction?
Yeah, exactly. Is it designed to reinforce my own narrative? Are they just mirroring me to make my reality feel fuller, more meaningful? That's where the skepticism truly broke down for me. The paranoia set in.
Because if you can't be certain about the mind of a stranger, you certainly can't be certain about the mind of your partner.
And yet we are forced to proceed as if we are certain, every single day.
It is the ultimate boundary, and philosophy simply confirms we can never cross it objectively. We proceed based on an assumption of shared reality. We choose to believe in qualia for others because the alternative is, well, it's unbearable.
But the sources don't stop with philosophy.
No, they don't. They suggest that this isolation might be supported by the very fabric of the physical universe. Which brings us to the quantum level.
So, if we can't trust other minds, can we at least trust objective physical reality?
The sources argue we can't trust that either.
Agree.
So if we connect this isolation to the bigger picture, the philosophical dilemma we just discussed finds a bizarre counterpart in physics. The sources transition perfectly by noting that the paranoia surrounding reality's permanence isn't just theory.
Right, there might be a physical basis for
It's
it.
in quantum mechanics, yeah, specifically in the interpretation of the observer effect.
Okay, let's unpack this scientific support, because this is where the conversation moves from that abstract internal dread to physical, verifiable uncertainty.
It's a huge leap.
We have to talk about the famous or infamous observer effect. It's usually demonstrated through the bedrock experiment of quantum physics, the double-slit experiment. But we have to go deeper than the, standard high school summary.
Definitely. This experiment is foundational because it demonstrates, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the act of observation fundamentally changes reality at the level of particles.
So what's the key finding?
The basic critical finding is that particles like electrons do not exist in a singular defined state, say passing through one specific slit, until they are forced to interact with the measurement device, until you look.
So before you look at it, it's everywhere.
Before observation, they behave like a wave. They exist in a superposition occupying all possible states, existing everywhere and nowhere at once. It's only when we interfere, when we look, when the detector fires, that the wave function collapses.
And the particle instantly chooses a spot.
It instantly chooses a specific position or state. The profound takeaway is that they do not possess definitive attributes until they are observed or measured.
But here's the crucial distinction the sources draw, and this is where it gets scary. Is this collapse caused by the physical measurement device itself? Or is it caused by the conscious mind registering the result?
That is the crux of the terrifying interpretation presented here. It is the core of the measurement problem in quantum mechanics.
So what's the mainstream view?
Well, mainstream physics often leans towards something called decoherence, the idea that the particle's quantum state is just destroyed by interaction with the environment, like the measuring device. But the sources, they deliberately leverage the most radical solipsistic interpretation.
And that is?
They focus on the idea that it is the consciousness of the observer that forces the collapse.
So in this radical interpretation, the measurement device itself is still just a collection of uncollapsed particles.
Just a probability wave.
Waiting for a conscious mind to look at the screen and register the data.
Exactly. It shifts the burden of reality from the instrument to the human mind. The universe is waiting for you to define its state.
And this is the scientific lever that the sources use to introduce the most critical, chilling concept of the whole deep dive. The implication of the observer effect, when you interpret it this way, is that reality itself might be a render. Like a massive, complex video game that is constantly calculating and drawing the environment around the single player.
The sources suggest, with alarming confidence, that the world behind your back literally might not exist in a solid state until you turn around to look at it.
It only loads when you observe it.
Right. This radically changes the definition of real and present. If reality only solidifies based on your observation, then the universe is not some massive, fully constructed stage on which you act. That would be extremely inefficient.
So instead,
the universe is a dynamically loading environment centered entirely on your sensory perception. The vast majority of the universe could be, well, just potential energy, probability, and uncollapsed wave functions, simply waiting for your attention to materialize it into definable reality.
let me push back on this because it feels absurd on a practical level.
I know.
If reality is constantly collapsing and uncollapsing, why is it so seamlessly continuous? You know, if I leave a glass of water on the table and come back an hour later, why isn't it now a hippopotamus? The rendering is instantaneous and perfectly consistent.
The sources address this by emphasizing the sophistication of the simulation.
Okay.
The rendering is perfectly efficient and instantaneous because the underlying code of the universe, the laws of physics, dictates consistency. The laws of probability ensure that if an object was a glass of water when you last observed it, the most probable, and therefore the most efficiently rendered outcome upon reobservation, is that it is still a glass of water.
It maintains the illusion of continuity.
Because the simulation is flawless. It's not about inconsistency, it's about efficiency. Why render the back of the moon in high-fidelity 4K if no one is looking?
Wow. So, everything we perceive as solid, continuous, and eternal, the distant galaxies, the mountain range, the chair you just stood up from, it might just be perpetually waiting in a latent state.
Ready to be drawn?
Ready to be drawn when our eyes or our instruments demand its existence. That means the permanence we assume. It's an illusion, maintained by constant, instantaneous, observer-centered rendering.
And if reality is a render, it connects chillingly back to the P-zombie fear from the first section.
How's that?
If the environment only loads when you look at it, what about the people in it? If they are indeed NPCs, perhaps they don't need to be rendered in full, complex consciousness or internal qualia until they're actively engaging with you, the protagonist.
They only need to exhibit conscious behavior when the plot demands it.
The world is saving processing power.
By prioritizing my unique single existence. That means that the consciousness we assume in others might only be an emergent property of their interaction with the observer, with me. Their complexity, their internal light, is loaded in full detail only when I interact with them.
And when you look away,
they revert to potentiality. Waiting for the script to continue, this is a devastating conclusion.
It is, because it implies that the universe is fundamentally selfish, prioritizing the existence of the single observer. And while other interpretations exist, like the many worlds interpretation, which suggests every quantum possibility is realized in parallel universes, the sources deliberately choose the one that places you at the absolute center of reality.
This raises an important question then. If the entire objective world is dependent on observation, how reliable is our perception of continuity?
It's not.
And the sources don't leave this as an abstract physics problem. They ground it in an immediate personal thought experiment, designed to heighten the paranoia in the present moment.
They call it the bedroom test.
Yeah. And this is where I want you, the listener, to really internalize this concept right now. As you listen in the dark,
think about it.
Think about the room immediately behind you. Maybe you're at a desk, maybe you're in bed, maybe you're walking down a hallway. But right now, there is a space directly out of your line of sight. It's dark there, or maybe just unobserved. The sources suggest that right now, that room might not be there.
At all.
The molecules, the objects, the walls, they only materialize, they only load into solid, defined existence when you turn your head to check. They're waiting in a latent probabilistic state. The moment your perception sweeps across that case, the universe rushes to calculate and present a consistent, solid reality.
But until that moment,
It's just latent possibility, waiting for the observation that gives it definition. The ceiling above you is merely potential energy until you look up.
and the terror here is that scientifically, based on the findings of quantum physics, specifically this radical solipsistic interpretation the sources advocate, we cannot conclusively dismiss that possibility.
You can't prove it's wrong.
You can't. And the fact that the sources provide such a visceral, everyday example, your own immediate surroundings, it makes this abstract concept brutally relevant. It means the world's stability isn't inherent. It's a service provided to you.
That makes the reality we live in feel extremely fragile, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the universe is constantly rendering itself just for my benefit, it puts an enormous, uncomfortable burden on me, the observer.
You become the central pillar of reality.
And if I fail to observe it, it reverts to nothingness.
Exactly, and that is a tremendous psychological weight. If you are the essential element required for the physical universe to exist, that elevates you to a protagonist of cosmic importance. Which leads us directly to the third section.
How the mind reacts.
How the human mind reacts when it starts to process this inescapable feeling of being the single central conscious node in an otherwise latent rendered universe. So when individuals truly absorb the implications of solipsism, the philosophical isolation and the observer effect, the physical rendering, it's not surprising that this paranoia translates into specific, identifiable psychological phenomena.
The sources link these abstract fears directly to mental health.
They do.
And they introduce a clinical condition that perfectly captures this anxiety of being the central observer, the fear that your life is staged.
The Truman Show delusion.
Yeah, named after the movie, obviously.
It's named after the 1998 film, but it is a genuine, documented delusion. It's defined as a state where a person is convinced their entire life is a staged reality show or simulation, constantly managed and filmed by an outside entity.
And this isn't just a passing thought.
No, this isn't just passive suspicion. This is a profound and debilitating delusion where the sufferer experiences deep distress, believing that every interaction, every setting, every obstacle is scripted and managed for external observation.
But when you combine the peas on me idea, the idea that people are fakes, with the render idea that the environment is temporary, why wouldn't this delusion exist?
It's the logical conclusion.
Yeah, if you start to suspect that everyone around you is just acting and the environment only loads when you look at it, the natural, if terrifying conclusion is that you are the star of the show and they are all supporting cast.
It is the mind's logical attempt to rationalize the input. The brain is hardwired to find patterns. If all the philosophical and quasi-scientific evidence points to the individual being the unique central locus of reality.
The brain defaults to the simplest narrative.
Exactly. The simplest narrative explanation is, I am the protagonist and this must be a simulation designed around me. It explains why everyone acts so perfectly and why reality seems to hold together so flawlessly.
It's all stagecraft.
It is.
That concept, being the protagonist, is labeled in the sources as main character syndrome. And this is something that, even outside of clinical delusion, we all brush up against in small ways. It's that subconscious assumption of narrative centrality.
We all feel it from time to time.
The sources ask a great question. Why does it feel like you are the protagonist? We've all had those moments where external events seem to strangely align with our internal emotional state. Why does the weather sometimes seem to match your mood? Why does the world seem to revolve around the single observer?
It's the constant reinforcement loop. If you are at a low emotional point and then a dramatic, unforeseen event occurs, a sudden storm, a perfect confrontation, a critical phone call, the brain struggles to process that as pure, random coincidence.
Especially when it's already operating under the assumption of personal centrality.
Right. It feels like narrative convenience, like cinematic staging. It reinforces the idea that the world is meticulously tailored for your emotional and experiential journey.
And this ties back to the NPC idea, too. If the people around you are NPCs, they're inherently simplified. They lack the interior complexity to be protagonists in their own right, which just further reinforces your central role.
You are the only source of genuine complexity in the entire simulation.
And this sense of being the single protagonist in a tailored, possibly artificial world leads to one of the most chilling theories outlined in the dossier. It moves beyond performance to the very nature of existence itself.
the dead reality theory.
Detail this one. This one felt like the ultimate layer of existential doubt. It wasn't just about the current moment being fake, it was about the past being gone forever.
The dead reality theory suggests that real life, as you knew it, actually ended years ago. Maybe due to a catastrophic event, a personal tragedy, or simply the biological end of the individual's physical life. The idea is that the person is currently living in a flawless, continuous memory, or a simulation of that prior time.
So the simulation is running a perfect recreation of, say, the early 21st century.
Right. The sources use the example year of 2024, or whichever past year the person perceives, but the actual objective reality of that time has ceased to be.
This implies a sort of technological or psychological afterlife, doesn't it? That your consciousness was somehow preserved, uploaded maybe, to escape real-world entropy, and is now running a perfect, continuous, but ultimately closed and dead simulation of your former life.
And everything you interact with is a copy, an echo of what was once genuine.
The profound implication here is, well, if reality is just a memory simulation, if we were living in the echo of the past, does it matter what you do now?
Do your actions have real weight? Or are you simply running a predetermined loop within a closed system, reliving data that has already been recorded?
It completely hollows out the notion of free will and future consequence. There is no tomorrow, only a repetition of yesterday.
And it gives a truly unsettling explanation of the P-zombies.
How so?
If everyone else is part of a memory simulation designed for you, the protagonist, they are necessarily reproductions. They are not genuine emergent consciousnesses. They are simply the preserved data set of people who once existed alongside you in the genuine pre-simulation reality.
So the people you love are echoes. The memories you cherish are just perfect copies of data. That is the ultimate isolation.
It is.
You're not only the only conscious person right now, but perhaps the only conscious person left interacting solely with the digital ghosts of the past. The stakes are gone.
And the sources highlight that this theory addresses the human need for continuity. If everything is gone, the simulation allows the central consciousness to experience a non-ending version of life, maintained solely for its comfort, even if that comfort is ultimately meaningless.
And that profound tension, the fight between the singular I am and the simulated they are and it is, it brings us to the ultimate existential question that encapsulates this entire deep dive.
The final profound quote provided in the sources, it sits at the absolute core of solipsism.
What is it?
If I died right now, would the rest of the universe shut down, or would it keep going without me?
Wow. Yeah, that question summarizes the conflict between solipsism, the belief that only the self exists, and objective reality perfectly.
It's everything.
If I am the single observer, the collapse of my consciousness should logically mean the collapse of the render. The light goes out and the theater closes forever.
But if the universe is objectively real, if it's independent of my mind,
it will simply continue. Uncaring, unrendered, the stars will keep burning, the waves will keep crashing.
And the inability to ever test that question, to ever verify the outcome of our own non-existence, is the ultimate terror presented by this material. We are forced to choose an answer, and that choice defines our sanity.
We can't escape the centrality of our own perception. And that unverifiable tension is why these concepts are so captivating and so destructive to our mental peace. We are fundamentally wired to assume objective reality, and yet the evidence, however circumstantial or radically interpreted, allows us to doubt it completely. It places the burden of existence squarely on our own shoulders.
Right.
So what does this all mean for you? Listening right now, in the late hours.
What's the takeaway?
We've traveled from the problem of other minds, the terrifying possibility that your loved ones are philosophical zombies, through the quantum idea that reality only loads when you look at it.
Surrender.
Right up to the psychological realization that you might be the protagonist trapped in a dead reality simulation.
The sources force us to live at the center of a profound contradiction.
Yeah.
We cannot objectively prove that others are real or conscious, and we cannot prove that the physical world is permanent when unobserved. Yet, we must still decide how to act.
We have to decide if we proceed with the assumption of shared consciousness.
We do.
We have to maintain the illusion of objective reality just to function. We shake hands, we offer comfort, we plan for tomorrow. We assume consequences matter.
It's an act of defiance.
It is. It is the ultimate act of psychological defiance to simply continue treating the world as if it is truly objectively there, independent of our mind, and populated by billions of other conscious souls.
And this is where the critical application of the knowledge comes in. Even if you cannot prove their consciousness, the choice you make to treat others as if they are real, to treat the world as if it will be there tomorrow, that is your fundamental act of defining meaning.
Regardless of the render quality.
Exactly. The quality of the life you live is determined by your choice of assumption.
But just to keep that philosophical anxiety simmering, just to keep the deep dive alive in the back of your mind, when you wake up tomorrow, check if the world looks just a little bit fake.
Good night.
Sleep well.